Welcome to Mrs. Peach Thrifty Living. I'm so happy you're here today. I'm back with the story of my grandpa's life and all of my dad's siblings, all of them born to my grandpa and grandma, I should say, who had 18 children. My third in this series, and I started off with the firstborn, and I'm going in order, and one today, and I don't know, depending on how long these are, I'm basically reading these. Somebody in the different families have written something about each of the children, and some of them were longer than others, and this one is about my dad. He was born July the 30th, 1912, and he was born at home. Remember, this was in Oklahoma. He married my mom in 1938. She was from back in the same area. Then they moved here where they lived till their death, here where I am. He was born in the home with Doc Fulton there to attend to his birth. He remembers that his father and mother were very strict parents, but they were fair. They all worked hard, but they also got privileges. It was a Christian home, and they were all taught Christian values. That's not a bad thing to do these days. He remembers always having 2 or 3 other people living in the home with them besides their family. These people would help with the work around the place also. One of the people living there was Grandpa Mac. My daddy remembered him as being a happy person who never tried to boss or interfere with the children. He remembers about Grandma Mary Ellen is that when they would go over to visit her, she would ask if anyone was hungry. She seemed to be able to fix a full meal in about 15 minutes. Of course, they didn't have any microwaves at that time either. She was a short, heavy set woman. Now that's my dad's words. I say this, if I recall, my dad would use the word fleshly. Okay, that was a word they used then. Do they ever use that word anymore? Okay, I'm veering off the subject. When Lula and Mary Ellen would get together in church, Lula, remember, my daddy's mama, when they'd get together in church, they could cause quite a commotion. They would both get real happy praising and worshiping the Lord, and they would start jumping around. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I've seen it several times in my life. He appreciates growing up in a large family. He feels they all got along well together. His mother was a big influence on his life. Cecil, that was the one next to him that I will be telling you about, and my daddy, Lester, was pals as children. Austin, which will be the next one, was a loner. I don't know why. Okay. Birthdays were just another day for the family, but Christmas was a special time. Sundays was spent going to Sunday school. Lester remembers having cottage prayer meetings, but the whole family wouldn't necessarily go. His mother and father would always go. I guess there was enough other people to watch the little ones. Lester became a Christian at age 14 or 15. Then he rededicated his life to the Lord. He would always go to church. His favorite foods was fried meat, cornbread, and biscuits. Daddy thought that Aline, that's another one of the sisters, and I will be telling you about her later, was a beautiful one in the family. Lester remembers his father as being active in everything in the community. He also remembers their house as being a double log house on a hill. One side was a shed with bedrooms there, and that they had a front porch. The boys had a bed in each corner. They slept 2 to 4 people in the bed. The younger children would sleep 4 in the bed, these were not king-size beds or queen-size. It was more than likely just a double bed. When their first sister came along, remember it was that number 9 child came along, Lester was glad because she took on some of the household chores and let the boys get to work on the outside. They had to start doing chores when they were really small, like feeding the chickens and gathering in the twigs for the fire. As they got older, they had other chores to do. They did the milking of the cows, but Lester as a child didn't do much of the milking of the cows because he said he couldn't do it right. General opinion by the other boys was that he was just smarter than they were because he figured out a way to get out of that chore. And they didn't figure it out. After he was married and lived away from home, he had a cow and he did the milking. Lester only went through the 8th grade. He did like math a lot. He did have a favorite teacher in the 7th and 8th grade. This teacher would take a real interest in the kids. The teacher would work with the children, and even some of the children had quit school. They would start back to school. He was the music teacher. You know, we've always had music in our family. It has been told that Lester loves to sing, yet he has been heard to say that he couldn't carry a tune in a milk can. I remember he used to like to sing the do, do, fa, fa, sol, and it's a shape notes. If you look back in some music books, that's the way they did it then. That's my thing. I'm varying from the notes because I knew my daddy. Lester started dating when he was about 16 or 17 years old, and they would go horseback riding or go to church. His first paying job was to cut ties. These trees were cut to be used as railroad ties. He could receive $5 to $6 a load. He also chopped cotton, getting paid $1 a day. He did farm labor in California and then became a carpenter. That's what I remember him in my whole life. He met his wife when he was 22 and knew he wanted her as his wife. That's my mama. He wanted someone that was dedicated to the Lord. When they left Oklahoma, they were engaged to be married and then married when they got here to California. My uncle, Wally, and that he will be in the story later, was at the wedding, and Lester remembers him as being a nuisance. Lester wanted to kiss his new wife, but Wally and a bunch of guys took Lester and tried to throw him in the canal. Depression time was a bad time because there was no work, but it wasn't too bad for the family because they raised most of their crops and meat, and they also had a general store. Now he's going back a little further. During the 30s and the Dust Bowl, he remembers the dust so bad that you couldn't see the sun. His mother, Arthur, and Miriam, those were some of the oldest, were the biggest influences in his life. Every time Lula, that's a grandma, would get up to testify, the Lord would give her a message in tongues and interpretation. I don't know that most of you know about that, but that's the way we were raised. He also has a lot of respect for his father. Lester always went to church and raised his family in church. Okay, I know that was a little longer, so I'm going to leave it there. And I'll try to come back real soon for the next episode. That will be my Uncle Cecil. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope it wasn't too noisy out here. It's a warm, nice day today. It's fall. It won't be long. I'll be raking all those leaves up. They will turn. I've got 3 trees to do. Thank you for joining me. I pray God blesses you today. I pray His light will shine on your life, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet. God bless you.